You've read the books, you've listened to the podcasts, you've tried the strategies, and if surface level tools alone worked, you would have changed by now, right? So, why do you still end up in the same place with habits that you know aren't good for you or getting you where you want to be? Well, this episode is about why that keeps happening and what's actually driving it. Welcome to The Brain Changers, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo Rebecca and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to the Brain Changers podcast. I am Rebecca King.
Hello, everyone, and I'm Yvonne King.
And this episode is probably going to hit close to home for a lot of people today. It's something that we see and hear often. People say, I'm doing the work or I've done the work. You know, they're reading books, they're following experts on social media, they're learning, they're gaining knowledge, and they're trying to apply what they've read and what they've heard about. But something is still not quite right. And that's exactly why this becomes frustrating, because we are making all of this effort, we're doing all of the things, but things aren't changing. You know, nothing really is changing, or we're not getting to that point that we want to be at. So we keep finding ourselves back in the same place. We've got these same thoughts running through our head, you know, always going for the what ifs, or we're reacting in the same way rather than being in control of our emotions and responding. So all these same patterns keep repeating themselves. And what happens then is that you start to question yourself. You know, you start thinking, why isn't this working for me? You know, what am I missing here? Why can everyone else seem to make this work? Everybody else's life is fantastic, and I can't make this work even though I'm doing the things. And usually our response to that is to try something else. Right? We find another tool, we latch onto another expert, we get another strategy, another way of doing it, which makes sense when you think about it in the moment, because if something isn't working, the natural assumption is, I just haven't found the right way yet.
Yes, it's a common something that we commonly come across, but this is where we need to stop and question something important. We might assume that the problem is the tool or the strategy or the method we're using. Maybe we think it's the wrong one, or it simply doesn't work for me. Now, I'll give you an example here, and this is something you hear quite often in reference to meditation. People might say, meditation doesn't work for me. I can't stop the thoughts popping into my head. I just can't do it. So they keep changing what they're doing, not even giving themselves the time for this to become a new routine or ritual for them. But what the problem really is that they're trying to solve something at the surface level rather than getting to the source of why they're feeling the way they do. We've talked about this several times, but this is something that we keep coming back to. We need to find out where this feeling or these thoughts are originating and notice how we've reacted to it since. Um, and if these surface level tools worked on their own, we wouldn't still be looking for a solution, would we? Would have done all the things and moved on. But this is where it's important to realize how our brain actually learns. When we're just, well, when we're reading and listening to podcasts and all of that sort of thing, the brain often takes that we've actually learnt that strategy or solution. What the brain actually requires to learn is action. We've got to do it, and it's something that is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take some time to do.
Mm. Yeah, that makes complete sense, doesn't it? Even when you think about things that take cooking, for example, you can read a recipe and go, well, I know that recipe, but until you actually cook the meal, until you're actually tangibly putting all of those ingredients together and tasting it, your brain might think that it knows how to cook the meal, but it's never actually done it. So it's probably going to slip away. It's not going to be
Correct.
embedded.
Hmm.
Yeah. So so what's actually happening? Why aren't these tools the whole solution? And the answer to that is because most tools, I say most tools work at the surface level. We talk about the surface level, we talk about getting to the source all the time. So you've heard this from us before. So most of the tools are doing work at the surface level. They give you something to do, but they don't change the way you think underneath that. And if you think about reading a book, like a lot of books will actually tell you what you need to do, but until you get up from the couch or wherever you're reading the book and do that thing, it doesn't embed. And then we have to look at how we're thinking about that underneath. So, in a way, it's simply a distraction, something to provide relief in the moment, the tools I'm talking about. So, when we're feeling anxious or we're feeling blue or we're feeling overwhelmed, and we engage these surface level tools to make us feel better in the moment. But that only works for a short time. It only provides a momentary relief. And then, the next day or the day after or the week after, something happens again, and you find yourself needing to manage your emotions again. So it's kind of like it's like trying to change the direction of your car. You can press the accelerator down and you can press the brake, you can change the gears, but if the wheel is still pointing in the same direction, you're going to end up in the same place, right?
Yeah.
So if I can give you some real life examples that you might relate to, someone says, I need to stop overthinking. So they try journaling to get their thoughts out of their head onto paper, or they try meditation to, calm their busy monkey mind, or breath work to calm their nervous system. And I want to say right here and now, these are all fantastic, incredibly valuable tools. These are all tools that we do and we recommend. But if that's all you're doing, and you're only doing it in the moment when you feel overwhelmed, anxious, like you're overthinking, hoping it's going to completely change the way that you feel, and you haven't actually addressed where that overthinking or that anxiety or that overwhelm is coming from, then it's not going to work. It's like putting a band-aid on something that really requires stitches. It's not going to make a big difference. So that's when that overthinking continues, or when that anxiety becomes a chronic condition.
Yes, another example that I think many people might relate to, Beck, is when people start to get overwhelmed, they think, okay, maybe I need to set some better boundaries. So they might start saying no to people or things that they're asked to do. But underneath that, they still feel responsible for how everybody else feels. They feel that they have to ensure that everybody else is happy, got what they need. They don't want to offend anyone. Um,
They
they
feel
feel
guilty.
bad about not being there to help people.
Mm,
So, although they're saying no, they still feel bad about it. And this is the pattern that we're trying to explain. You might change something on the surface, but if you haven't dealt with why you're feeling these things, I mean, why do you feel that you need to keep everybody else happening? Um, why do you feel that everybody else's needs should come ahead of your own? Those are the things that we need to address in a circumstance like this. So, doing something on the surface won't change what's happening underneath unless we get to the root of why we're feeling these things. So, if we want different behavior from ourselves, then this is what we have to do.
that's right. And this is where that uncertain feeling comes up, that discomfort. And we talked about this in a previous episode when we specifically talked about uncertainty. And this is why it matters, is because when things feel uncertain or uncomfortable, or which we always feel when we're going through that growth period or a period of change, the patterns don't disappear. They actually get stronger
Mm.
because the pressure that we're under, that pressure of uncertainty, exposes those patterns.
It's
So
like they're our default settings, isn't it?
that's right. They're what's the saying when something like when the pressure rises, we we default to the level of our training. And if you think of
Okay, yeah.
that word,
Mm.
we don't, I can't remember, I'm going to butcher it, but we don't rise to, our best, but we default to the level of our training. And when we talk about training here, we're talking about our conditioning.
Mm.
How have we been conditioned from the day we were born? That's because that's what's easiest. That's what our brain knows. It goes into, it's essentially survival mode. When
Mm.
we use that term survival mode, it sounds really dramatic, like we're literally fighting for our life. But in the brain's perspective, it that's what it's doing. It's just our life is very different to, back in the day where we literally had to try and survive. So yeah, it's defaulting to that primal survival skill. So if your
Mm.
default is overthinking situations or delaying decisions, because you've got to think of all the possible scenarios, or your default is trying to control everything and everyone, that's exactly what will happen when things feel unstable or uncertain. Your brain will default to what it knows, what it has practiced over the years. And by practiced, I mean what it has done over and over again,
Mm.
what's familiar. And that is what creates a busy mind, the overthinking, that constant sense of pressure.
That's a very insightful thing, Beck. I think that a lot of our listeners will find that um, very useful to know because a lot of people suffer with this overthinking. So now we know what causes it. So if we want to change this, um, we need to ask different questions. Now, we're often talking about this, aren't we? Learning to ask different questions. So perhaps instead of saying, hands there, what should I do? Let's ask a different question and say, what's driving the way I'm doing this?
Mm.
Because now we're not just talking about adding more tools to the toolkit. We want to go back a step and we want to look at what's actually shaping our decisions in the first place.
That's right. And look, I do hear this a lot. People going through a tough time, even people that I work with, and they're like, "Oh, this situation has come up, and I think I need a new tool or I need something different." It's like, okay, well, Yes, there are certain tools in certain situations, but I think I said this before. If that's all we're using, if we're just using the tools and we're not getting to the source, then nothing is ever going to resolve itself. So if you are listening to this and you're thinking, I have tried a lot of things, I have read a lot of books, I've got a whole list of stuff that I've tried. That's often the word we use. I've tried it. That's great. Like, good. That tells us that you're willing to make an effort. Effort isn't the issue here. You've, but what the issue is that you've been trying to change what's happening or the way that you feel on the surface without changing what's underneath it, without getting to the source of why you feel like this or why you act this way in the first place. Right. And perhaps, like we've said, you've read the books, you've got the knowledge, you've followed people on Insta, and your brain has taken this as fact that you've actually done it and changed. Like you were talking about before, Mum, that's what the brain does. If we read something, it's got this knowledge and it acts as though we have actually done the thing because our brain learns by doing. And I guess reading is doing something, isn't it? But then it's not doing the thing that's actually going to create the change. So that
That
doesn't mean that, yes, that doesn't mean that all of the tools that we have are useless, far from it. It just means that they're not designed to do the whole job. They are designed to be used in conjunction with other techniques.
Yes, that's a very worthwhile point to remember. So let's just recap because we're getting to the end of this podcast, but let's bring it all together. Tools are not the problem. We have the tools and we use them, but they're not the solution on their own. They're very useful, but they need to be used in conjunction with something that creates the change on the right level.
Yes, and by right level, if you go way back to the beginning of our podcast and you listen to the episodes about the neurological levels of change, you'll understand what we're talking about when we say making changes at a different level. And if this is something that you are starting to see in yourself, or you've noticed that it's there and you finally want to do something about it, a really good place to begin is understanding how your thinking is actually working, what's actually going on. So we've put together a simple resource that's going to help you do that so that you're not just trying more things, you're actually looking at what is driving this behavior, and you'll find a link for that resource in the show notes.
Thank you for listening, as usual, to the Brain Changes podcast. We like to bring this information to you because we know that it has a lot of very useful and potent information too. And we hope that it's been useful to you today. If you know someone who's been trying everything, still not getting the results that they'd like, please share this episode with them. It may be exactly what they need to hear right now.
Yes, and please remember to follow and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And we'd love for you to leave us a review as well, or simply just get in contact in our DMs or by leaving a comment to let us know what you've taken from this episode and how you've implemented it into your life. And until next time, remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changes. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changes.